I've always been a huge fan of sci-fi, so you'd think after the recent news of the billionaire space race, I would be excited, but I'm not. You'd think movies like First Man and Apollo 13 would come to mind, as they showcase mankind's highest achievement in space travel, but after seeing the news, I don't really think of those movies. Seeing this news has made me think a lot of Ad Astra, which I think is one of my favorite sci-fi films of the past 5 years. So why do I think of Ad Astra? Because after seeing this billionaire space race, it reminds me of how I felt after watching Ad Astra, specifically how I was longing for the feeling I had after watching it. After watching Ad Astra, I felt hopeful, and I felt a greater sense of connection with those around me and those close to me. Ad Astra means to the stars. Reaching and looking to the stars has always been synonymous with hope, progress, and prospering. And these exploitative profiteers that are funding their ego-driven space race with their immense wealth is stripping the stars' ability to be synonymous with hope and prospering. They are actively taking away that feeling from me that I had after watching Ad Astra. Ad Astra is essentially Apocalypse Now meets 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's a warning that in our attempts to prosper, and in the inevitability of space travel, we must not regress to primitive beings, and it leaves us with a hopeful message that we have to remember that as humans, all we have is each other.
I am focused only on the essential to the exclusion of all else. I will make only pragmatic decisions. I will not allow myself to be distracted.
The film opens with Roy kind of giving a pre-mission psychological analysis. It shows his entire being is dedicated to the mission and the mission only. His wife, played by Liv Tyler, is out of focus in their home to show that Roy is not mentally present in the times before a mission. I think you can easily interpret this as a sort of commentary on the depression astronauts like Buzz Aldrin faced after their missions, but I think in Ad Astra specifically, Roy represents how humans will disconnect from humanity and basic human contact. It shows him regressing in real time in order to handle his upcoming travels.
Well, and all the assessment tests, basic combat, space training, just exceptional across the board. The rumor is that your pulse rate has never gone above 80 in any of the spacewalks, skywalks, and even in this most recent fall. Is that correct?
Well, so far, sir.
And that's exactly what a big portion of the beginning of the film is reinforcing. He's regressed almost into a robotic form. A lot of the beginning voiceover is showcasing Roy contemplating his relationship with his father, which has deteriorated directly because of space travel. It's showcasing the type of person Roy has become because of space travel.
I see myself from the outside. Smile, present a side. It's a performance.
This is directly showcased in the inciting incident of the film, when Roy is on the space elevator / antenna thing where he experiences a solar system-wide surge. While Roy is potentially plummeting to his death, he's remaining calm, collected, and unemotional.
Control, McBride. I'm in a spin. Atmosphere's too thin to stabilize.
Roy is then called to search for the source of the surges, which is thought to be coming from his father, an astronaut assigned to a mission called the Lemur Project, with the goal of finding habitable planets. So, after another brief look at Roy's psyche, he is approved for lunar travel, and the next scene is brief but a very important part of the film. Roy experiences commercialized space travel. He's next to a regular-looking everyday guy and some guy who looks like he's traveling for business. He flies to another launch base on the moon, where there's shitty fast food, gift shops, and things like that. It's meant to show how even though humanity has prospered enough to colonize, we haven't improved. It showcases his father's philosophy that humans are a disease.
If my dad could see this now, he'd tear it all down.
It's no secret that eventually mankind will have to leave Earth. And this dilemma is kind of hinted at in the rover scene. Roy is told that part of the moon is an active war zone. I seem to find a lot of people think that this scene is just there to spice things up and put some mindless action in it. Even Mark Kermode, who is probably my favorite film critic, claimed he felt the movie was pulling in two different directions, where it had this slow, methodical side like Apocalypse Now, and would, veer to the other direction of action. I disagree with this entirely. I think these action scenes are incredibly important. The rover scene starts with a voiceover from Brad Pitt saying, "Here we go again, fighting over resources." It reinforces the theme of the movie. It reinforces that with space travel comes regression, and in this case, a need for resources. In the next sequence of the film, Roy is on board a flight to Mars, where the crew takes a pill that is explained to prevent them from becoming emotional. It's another example of how traveling causes dehumanization and regression, something I'll circle back to a little later. During this sequence, Roy separates himself from the rest of the crew and doesn't take the pill. Instead, he watches the top-secret message Donald Sutherland's character gave to him, which reveals it's believed his father purposely shut down communications aboard the Lima Project. And the preceding voiceover gives a heartfelt look at how his father's relentless pursuit of the Lima Project fractured their relationship.
Find out there? Did it break him? Or was he always broken?
The scene then leads to another example of regression. They receive a mayday signal from another ship. Roy wants to completely ignore it and continue with the mission.
Got a mayday from another craft, sir.
Captain, this is a classified mission we cannot stop. Our destination is Mars, Ursa Station.
The captain makes the call to stop and help the ship in trouble, which gives us another action scene. The film takes an animal that has always been known for its intelligence and is no stranger to space travel, and makes it regress to a primitive being due to prolonged isolation. So after this, Roy finally arrives on Mars, where he is tasked with sending out periodic voice messages to his father.
Father, if you can hear me, I'm attempting to communicate with you. Spacecom wants you to know that they are aware of the disturbances and that it cannot be your responsibility.
When he gets the sense his father returned his message, he is criticized for having an elevated pulse and an emotional response.
Thank you.
Excuse me, did you get a response from my father?
Major, your personal connection has made you unsuited for continued service on this mission.
He is then told he's unfit for the mission due to his emotional attachment and is ordered to return to Earth, but he can't return to Earth until he passes a psych evaluation. He is being actively punished for showing emotion, and he's being punished for being
Your
human.
priority code is no longer valid. Please contact a representative if this restriction is in error.
This is part of Roy's character arc. Because of his emotional response, he is no longer allowing himself to regress. So, while on Mars, Roy meets a woman whose parents also left for the Lima Project, which fractured their relationship. She reveals that Roy's father killed his crew because they could not handle the psychological toll of being that far away from Earth. She is also fed up with Spacecom and how they're using astronauts as cannon fodder for missions, so she busts him out of his holding cell and takes him to the launch pad to rejoin the Cerberus crew who are headed for Neptune.
They're gonna come for you, you know.
Yeah, it's pretty coincidental and pretty Deus Ex Machina-ish. It's a way to get Roy to the next plot point without any consequence. It's pretty poorly executed. It's not the best. And the next scene also causes a lot of people to have pretty valid gripes. Essentially, the fate of the entire solar system rests in the hands of a group of incompetent researchers that, for some reason, have guns strapped to their waist during launch inside of their own spacecraft. Regardless, you can see how they aren't able to act without any nuance. They just follow orders because they're putting the mission above all else, and they've been continually regressing and dehumanized by repeated use of the pills. It shows the deterioration of agency we are likely to experience during space travel. They don't hesitate and come after Roy, so Roy has no choice but to kill the Cerberus crew, and once he does, he sends a message about what happened. It highlights how death is portrayed in the film. Between the monkey scene and when we first get to Mars, and this scene, it all shows how death is portrayed in the film. It's treated very matter-of-factly. After the monkey scene, they have a little ceremony for the fallen astronaut, but there's no emotion and no mourning. And once he arrives on Mars, he's told in casual conversation that they lost 3 astronauts. Check this out.
You should be glad you arrived safely. You had some kind of cosmic storm. You lost 3 astronauts trying to land.
And now in this scene, they have no problems killing someone that they praised before for being a son of a legend, and someone they just traveled with for many weeks. But Roy treats death differently. We see that he actually tries to save one of their lives. Once he has to kill them, he mourns their deaths a little bit and contemplates his decision.
What have I done?
It's something we haven't seen done before, and the only reason why Roy is doing it is because he's the only person in the film that is human.
You seem really preoccupied with your work. I just feel like I'm on my own all the time.
The next sequence of the film is a prolonged period in isolation as he travels towards Neptune and as we approach the climax. It shows brief flashbacks of his life, his crumbling marriage, and the physical and psychological toll the journey is taking on him. It reintroduces the question whether the son must answer for the sins of the father. And the film doesn't really do a good job at concluding this theme. It asks the question a few times, and the movie makes it very clear that Roy has become an astronaut because of his father, but the conclusion just kind of is intertwined with the bigger theme of regression. So after this sequence, he finally reaches Neptune, and the climax of the film is what I find usually makes or breaks the film for a lot of people. If you've been connecting with the themes of the movie up until this point, you'll be totally okay with the lack of reveal regarding the solar system-wide surges. And if you haven't been connecting with the themes of the movie up until this point, you'll be completely disappointed by the lack of reveal. Roy enters the station and confronts his father. His father explains how hellbent he was on the mission and nothing else, and that humans think too small and focus on meaningless stuff, as if he has transcended humanity.
There was never anything for me there. I never cared about you or your mother or any of your small ideas.
Roy tells him he's there to bring him home, which he replies by saying he is home. His place is among the stars. He admits to killing his crew because they didn't have what it took. To him, they were a disease, an obstacle in the way of him and his mission to find alien life.
I'm taking you back.
I have work to do.
During their confrontation, it's made pretty clear his father has gone crazy due to prolonged periods of isolation. His dad looks confused, as if he can't believe it's really him when Roy touches him. But Roy finally convinces his dad that he has to come with him, and that they must blow up the Lima Project to stop the surges. His father agrees, but during their trip back to Roy's ship, his father kicks off the station and causes them to fly through space to what would be their death. And this is the emotional climax of the film. Roy's father tells him that he has to let him go. He has to let go of the importance Roy has put on understanding his father. He has to let go of the mission. The subtext here is that he has to let go of space travel, and that he has to let go of their relationship.
Let me go. Let me go, Roy. Dad. Let me go, Roy. Unhook me.
And Roy reluctantly lets go. He sends his father to his death. Afterwards, he's floating through space, and he thinks to himself,
Why go on? Why keep trying?
But then he sees Earth, a glimmer in the far distance, and he comes to realize that's why we go on. For the people of Earth, for those around us, for those we have connected with, and for those we have loved. And when Roy is returning to his ship, it's revealed to us that Roy downloaded all of the data from the Lima Project. The reveal of the plot of what the Lima Project discovered was nothing.
He captured strange and distant worlds in greater detail than ever before. But beneath their sublime surfaces, there was nothing. He could only see what was not there, and missed what was right in front of him.
Roy's father missed the most beautiful thing about life: relationships, connections. His father missed the basic human experience. Roy had to leave Earth to understand the importance of being part of it.
Trajectory Earth, 2.714 billion miles.
It wasn't until Roy was a victim of prolonged isolation that he could fully appreciate the relationships around him.
I am looking forward to the day my solitude ends.
And when he gets back on Earth, the only thing in focus is a hand reaching out to him, representing the importance of human interaction. He smiles. It's no longer a performance. And we get another psych evaluation, but this time it's different. It's showing us how Roy has changed as a character.
I am active and engaged. I am focused on the essential to the exclusion of all else.
His wife, who was out of focus in the beginning of the film, is now in focus. He will no longer put the mission above all else. He now understands the importance of human connection, relationships, and love.
I will rely on those closest to me. And I will share their burdens as they share mine. I will live and love.
As the film cuts to black, it leaves us with hope. Hope that in the inevitable evolution of man and its place among the stars, we won't allow ourselves to regress from it. And it's a reminder that as humans, we have to reach out to each other, because as humans, all we have is each other. My original plan for this video was to get into way more detail about the billionaire space race and how much I hate it, but I figured it didn't suit the video and I already wrote an article about it, so I decided to just focus on the movie. If you're interested in what I have to say about the billionaire space race, I will put my article in the description below. Thanks so much for watching.